A billionaire, once untouchable, now stands in cold handcuffs, his gaze locked on a small child who looks back with a mix of confusion and fear. The glass tower around him gleams coldly, isolating him from the bustling city below. Inside he sobs alone, tears tracing the contours of a face once graced on the cover of Time magazine. No names are spoken, no context given, only the raw, devastating impact of a man who built an empire yet couldn't save what mattered most. A voice breaks the silence. He built an empire, but he couldn't save her. Paradox hangs heavy, power paired with profound loss. This moment of vulnerability strikes the audience with awe and a silent question. How did it come to this? The silence breaks as the voice softly continues. No names, no context, just impact. The city hums beneath the glass walls, indifferent to the man's anguish. Outside, life rushes forward, people unaware of the fall of a titan. The child remains still, their gaze a mirror to the chaos inside. This moment is a snapshot of a life unraveling, a poignant reminder that power and vulnerability can coexist in the same breath. Here, in the hollow quiet of a fortress, the story begins not with triumph, but with loss. The voice whispers again, he built an empire, but he couldn't save her. The words echo through empty corridors and boardrooms long since emptied of celebration. The man's empire was vast, steel, glass money, but fragile in its foundation. Outside, the world moves on, but inside, time has frozen, trapping regrets and shattered dreams. The child's presence is a fragile tether to the past and future alike, a symbol of hope tangled with heartbreak. The man's eyes meet the child's once more, a silent exchange heavier than words. Years of ambition, sacrifice and power now pale in comparison to this fragile moment of connection. The empire that once defined him now feels like a cage, its walls made not of stone but of loss and regret. The voice fades to a whisper. He built an empire, but he couldn't save her. This paradox is the thread that will unravel everything. Power is no shield from heartbreak. The camera pulls back to reveal the empty city below, endless lights flickering like distant stars. The voice closes this opening act. This is not a story about success. It's a story about what we lose when we reach too far. The man's tears are no longer just his. They belong to every soul who has ever built a dream only to see it slip away. The child's hand reaches out, hesitant yet determined, hinting at a future shaped not by empire, but by heart. Story shifts to her, the child who watched it all unfold. A young girl no older than 10, standing at the edge of a small playground, eyes fixed on the towering figure of her parent, slipping away beneath the weight of their own ambition. She promised herself silently, I will never be like you. Her heart, heavy with confusion and loss, was forging an armor of determination. Her innocence was fractured, replaced by a quiet fire, one that would drive her to build something different, something stronger. This is not the story of the fallen CEO alone. It's a story of legacy, wounds carried in silence, and the fierce hope that blooms from broken trust. Years later, the girl grew into a young woman, her back turned to a sleek corporate boardroom where decisions were made, power wielded, and alliances forged. She stood outside, the glass doors reflecting her resolve and the cold distance inside. Her story was not written in accolades or press releases, but in moments of turning away, rejecting the hollow glimmers of her parents' world, determined to carve her own path. The echoes of her father's empire lingered, but so did the scars. She wore her pain quietly, a shield for the fire that burned beneath, ready to reshape the very definition of success. Elsewhere, a boy sits alone in the corner of a small convenience store, clutching a worn toy, while his mother pleads quietly with the manager behind the counter. Her eyes are tired, her voice barely audible, begging for a chance, a job, anything to lift them from the weight of their struggles. The boy watches, learning early that life is a balance of hope and hardship. Their story, like so many others, intersects with the empire built on glass and steel, but remains raw, unpolished, and deeply human. It is this tapestry of struggle and survival that forms the true backbone of the tale, a reminder that behind every empire are countless unseen lives. The wounds carried by these lives, shame, love, fear, and fire, are the emotional anchors that pull the story forward. The young woman, the boy, and the child in the playground all carry pieces of a fractured legacy. Each promises themselves to rise above what they have lost, yet none can escape the invisible chains of history. The weight of their parents' choices presses on their shoulders, shaping their ambitions and fears. This act of emotional reckoning is not just a backdrop, it is the pulse beneath every decision, every sacrifice. It is what drives them toward power, and what threatens to consume them in the process. In this moment, the story's heart beats loudest. The child's vow, the woman's silent rebellion, the boy's quiet resilience, all threads weaving toward a future shaped by the shadows of the past. The empire they are tied to is not just a structure of wealth or power, but a complex web of human stories, of wounds inflicted, promises broken, and hope nurtured. The pain they carry will fuel their drive, but it will also define their vulnerabilities. This is where the journey truly begins, anchored not by titles or achievements, but by the deep emotional currents that will push and pull them through every triumph and every fall. The young woman's journey begins in the glow of a sleepless night. Her office is cluttered with scattered papers, empty coffee cups, and half-forgotten reminders of a life paused. Outside, the city sleeps, but inside her mind races, pitching ideas, planning moves, and weighing risks. Every decision feels like a gamble, every step forward shadowed by the sacrifices already made. Lost birthdays and missed calls haunt her, but the fire in her chest drives her onward. She's building something new, something her own, but the cost is steep, and the night whispers that the price will only rise. Pitch after pitch, she faces boardrooms filled with skeptical faces. Her voice is steady, but the weight of expectation is crushing. Friends and lovers fade into the background, ghosts of a life sacrificed for ambition. Wins come, but they are hollow victories, stripped of joy by the relentless pace. Every handshake hides a battle, every contract is a silent promise that the climb will demand more. Yet, despite it all, her resolve hardens. This ascent is hers, even if the summit feels impossibly far. Sleepless nights bleed into long, lonely mornings. The weight of expectation fractures moments of joy. Invitations go unanswered, friendships fray, and love becomes a distant memory. She watches as those she once trusted walk away, replaced by allies whose loyalty is measured in dollars and deals. Yet beneath the fatigue, there is growth, strength forged in adversity, lessons carved in loss. The empire she inherited may have faltered, but the one she builds carries her scars and her hopes. The victories pile up, but so do the costs. Each success exacts a toll, sleep lost, relationships strained, moments sacrificed. The boardroom applause rings hollow in empty hotel rooms. The weight of legacy presses heavier with every deal closed. The cost of power reveals itself not just in numbers, but in solitude. Her ascent is relentless, driven by a promise to rewrite the story, but with every step, she risks losing the very self she's fighting to find. Her rise is undeniable but fragile, perched on sacrifices unseen. The price of power is paid in moments missed and hearts left behind. Friends become whispers, love becomes a ghost, and her own reflection sometimes feels like a stranger. Yet in the quiet desperation of these moments, the embers of her ambition burn brighter. She stands at the edge of a new empire, her heart guarded but fierce. The climb continues, no matter the cost. Just as momentum builds, the ground shifts beneath her feet. The empire she's fought to claim is not truly hers. Documents reveal that the business was never fully in her control, strings pulled by unseen hands. The truth crashes down. Her co-founder is her own sibling, a person she trusted more than anyone. Betrayal sharpens the edges of her world, twisting victory into doubt. She feels the floor fall away, the foundation crumble. The narrative she believed in shatters. This is not just a business crisis, it is a personal earthquake, echoing through every corner of her life. Worse still, whispers surface of a mentor who once guided her now stealing from the very company she's trying to save. The betrayal cuts deeper than any boardroom battle. Trust fractures as alliances crumble. Faces once familiar become strangers. The Empire's walls close in, revealing cracks in the steel facade. As she uncovers layers of deceit, her body trembles, not from weakness, but from the weight of a truth too heavy to bear alone. The collapse isn't just financial, it's emotional, leaving her exposed, vulnerable, and gasping for breath. Amid the turmoil, a darker secret surfaces. Her health is failing. A private doctor's report confirms the unthinkable. A terminal illness she must hide from the team to maintain the fragile facade of strength. Every breath becomes a battle, every moment a stolen gift. The collapse of the Empire mirrors the collapse within her own body. The stakes have never been higher, yet silence wraps around her like a shroud. She is both warrior and prisoner, fighting battles no one else knows, holding together a crumbling world as her own fades. The Empire's collapse sends shockwaves through every layer of her life. The boardroom becomes a battlefield of whispered alliances and shattered loyalties. Trust evaporates, even her closest allies question her leadership. The pressure mounts to break, to surrender what she's fought so hard to build. Yet in the eye of the storm, she finds a flicker of defiance, a raw, unyielding refusal to let the past dictate her future. This collapse, devastating as it is, becomes the crucible that will forge a new kind of strength. As the final pieces fall into place, the silence between moments becomes deafening. She whispers to herself, "No way." The Empire she believed in was a mirage, the betrayal, a bitter truth, her own body, a battlefield. Yet even as the floor drops beneath her, the story refuses to end here. The collapse is not a finale, but a reckoning, a moment where everything breaks apart to make room for something new. The viewer is left breathless, wondering what will rise from the ruins. The boardroom is a cauldron of silence and tension. Every eye is fixed on her, the young woman who carries the weight of a crumbling legacy and the hopes of rebuilding it anew. The polished table reflects the fluorescent lights overhead, casting cold shadows that mirror the stakes she faces. She rises from her seat, her voice steady but layered with emotion as she addresses the gathering. This empire is more than just numbers on a balance sheet or the sum of contracts signed. It's a collection of people, promises, sacrifices, and pain. What we decide today will echo not just through these walls, but through the lives of everyone who depends on us. The weight of her words hangs in the air. She knows this vote will either destroy the last remnants of the empire or breathe new life into it. The air thickens with anticipation, a collective breath held, waiting for the moment that will redefine everything. Votes are silently cast, paper ballots sliding across the table with the faintest rustle, echoing loudly in the hushed room. The shifting glances, tightening jaws, and subtle nods reveal the internal conflict, the battle between loyalty, pragmatism, and doubt. She watches each raised hand with a pounding heart, knowing that behind every vote lies a personal calculus of trust and fear. In a quiet moment, a whispered apology escapes her lips, not to the room but to herself and the ghosts of those she may lose, friends, mentors, family. The burden of leadership crushes her, but this moment is hers alone. This vote isn't just a tally of yes or no, it's a final plea for grace, a desperate attempt to hold on to a dream frayed by betrayal and loss. The boardroom holds its breath, the future hanging on the knife's edge between ruin and redemption. The announcement slices through the suffocating silence like a knife. The legacy will survive, but only barely. Relief floods her features, mingling with tears she tries to hold back. There is joy in survival, yes, but also a bitter taste of what must be sacrificed. Trust broken, alliances fractured, innocence lost. She whispers under her breath, "I will not let this be the end." Around her the room murmurs quietly, the battle won but the war far from over. This fragile victory is a promise that demands courage, sacrifice, and an unbreakable will. The peak has been reached, but the climb continues. The empire, fragile and fractured, still stands, waiting for its rebirth through her hands and heart. Away from the harsh glare of the boardroom, in a quiet, dimly lit room, a moment unfolds. A silent embrace between father and daughter, bridging years of distance, disappointment, and unspoken pain. No words are exchanged, but everything is said in the tightness of the hug, the forgiveness, the regret, the hope for healing. This fragile connection is a beacon amid the chaos, a reminder that beyond the battles for power and legacy, what truly matters are the human ties that bind. The empire may be on the brink of transformation, or collapse. But here, in this intimate moment, a new kind of strength is born. It is the strength of love, forgiveness, and the will to rebuild not just a business, but a family. The crescendo of the act unfolds on a grand stage, before an audience whose faces blur into shadows. She stands alone, illuminated by a stark spotlight, vulnerability and strength mingling in her posture. Her voice rings out, steady and raw, as she lays bare the cost of ambition, the weight of loss, and the hope for redemption. We are not defined by what we lose, but by what we choose to become, she declares, each word carrying the weight of battles fought and futures dreamed. The room is silent, breath held, hearts moved. This is the turning point, the moment where destruction pivots to rebirth. The story's heartbeat pulses strong, the future uncertain but charged with possibility. In this speech, she finds not just her voice, but the path forward. In the quiet aftermath of the tempest, the young woman confronts the true cost of the empire she once chased so fiercely. Standing before a tall mirror, she studies her reflection, no longer the untouchable CEO of ambition and power, but a survivor marked by scars of loss, sacrifice, and hard-won wisdom. The glossy veneer has cracked, revealing raw vulnerability beneath. Yet in her tired eyes flickers a fragile hope. The battles fought and hearts broken have reshaped her, not broken her. Now, she searches for meaning beyond the corporate conquests, seeking peace in a life defined not by conquest, but by endurance and grace. This moment is less an end than a new beginning, where healing starts in the quiet solitude of self-reflection. Far from the soaring glass towers and boardroom battles, a middle-aged man moves quietly through a cluttered office, filled with family photos and faded documents. His face is etched with lines of regret, but also determination. The quiet strength of a man trying to reclaim what was lost. Behind closed doors he works to repair fractured relationships, mend broken trust, and steady a company teetering on the edge. His legacy is no longer about power or wealth, but about the small, steady acts of sacrifice and care. Though he missed so much before, he now fights to protect what remains, proving that even in failure, redemption is possible. His story is one of humble strength, a testament to the enduring bonds that survive even the deepest wounds. The young woman's journey takes a turn inward, away from the relentless climb and cutthroat deals. In the stillness of nature, she begins to seek herself, not the CEO or heiress, but the person beneath the ambition. Sitting by a serene lake at dawn, the soft golden light bathes her in calm as she breathes in the silence, feeling the weight of years begin to lift. Here, in the gentle embrace of solitude, she learns that strength is not always found in conquest, but often in surrender, letting go of the past and embracing imperfection. Her quest for identity is raw and ongoing, a tender path of healing and rediscovery where peace begins to root itself in the soil of self-acceptance. The empire itself transforms, from a monument of individual ambition into a living testament to sacrifice, resilience, and renewal. What once seemed like a monolith of success now breathes with human complexity. Wounds healed, promises kept, and futures quietly rebuilt. The young woman and her father find common ground not in power, but in shared vulnerability, and the courage to carry forward. Their legacy is no longer about invincibility or perfection, but about the messy, beautiful truth of survival. It is imperfect and fragile but deeply real, rooted in love, loss, and the fierce determination to rise again. This is the legacy that endures, not as a monument, but as a living story of human strength. As this act draws to a close, the story exhales with a bittersweet breath. The empire may have faltered, the wounds may linger, but what remains is enduring: the bonds of family, the strength born from struggle, and the promise of a future forged in sacrifice and love. The quiet living room, the gentle grip of hands, the flicker of a fire, all whisper that healing is a process, imperfect and ongoing. The viewer is left suspended between tears and hope, invited to reflect on the complexity of loss and the power of resilience. This resolution is neither neat nor easy, but it is profoundly real, an embrace of life's pain and beauty in equal measure, closing one chapter as another quietly begins. The final act opens in profound stillness. The young woman stands alone in a room softly illuminated by flickering candlelight, the faint hum of a city settling into night just beyond closed windows. She faces a large, ornate mirror that holds more than just her reflection. It captures the echoes of a lifetime: battles waged behind corporate walls, love lost and reclaimed, scars carved deep by ambition and sacrifice. Her eyes search the glass for the person she has become, a survivor tempered by fire and shadow. A whisper breaks the silence, carrying the weight of history. "He left the company, but never left her." Those words are a fragile bridge across time, spanning the gap between past failures and future hope. Outside, the night sky ignites in distant fireworks, flashes of color that burst briefly, brilliant against the dark canvas, like the flickering ember of hope she guards fiercely within. The journey has been long and painful, but in this hushed moment, survival pulses strong, quiet yet unyielding, a vow to carry forward what truly matters, no matter the cost. Turning slowly from the mirror, she moves toward a towering window that frames the city sprawling beneath a tapestry of stars. The quiet echo of fireworks outside dwindles into a serene silence that fills the room, wrapping around her like a protective cloak. Her silhouette is bathed in a blend of cool moonlight and the warm neon glow of distant signs, symbols of a world alive and waiting beyond the glass. This moment, fragile yet potent, speaks of resilience forged in darkness and a readiness to face an uncertain future. The empire she once sought to command has transformed, no longer a fortress of power, but a testament to endurance and change. She stands poised between history and possibility, guarded but open, strong but tender, an emblem of human strength shaped by loss and the promise of renewal. This quiet vigil before the city's pulse is a meditation on survival, hope, and the uncharted road ahead. In a now empty boardroom, once filled with tense negotiations and hushed deals, a child's small hand reaches upward, tentative and curious, toward the smooth, polished armrest of an imposing executive chair. The innocence in that gentle gesture contrasts starkly with the heavy legacy etched into the leather and wood. It is a silent promise, a seed planted in the fertile soil of a history forged in sacrifice, resilience, and love. This next generation stands at the threshold of a new chapter, not merely inheriting power or wealth, but carrying forward a story rich with lessons hard-earned and dreams deferred. The future waits, fragile, unknown, but ripe with possibility. This fleeting moment, delicate and profound, whispers quietly of hope reborn, a torch passed gently from one hand to the next. It is the subtle beat that sustains the pulse of legacy beyond the shadow of loss. A breathtaking aerial panorama of a city skyline bathed in the tender hues of dawn. Pastel pinks, golds, and soft purples bleed into a clear sky, casting a warm glow over glass skyscrapers that shimmer like jewels catching the first light. Streets below stir to life, cars inching forward, pedestrians emerging, the endless hum of a world in motion. The story's heartbeat continues beyond the boardrooms and broken legacies, a timeless dance of human resilience, renewal, and hope. As the shadows of night dissolve, a new day offers the promise of fresh starts and endless possibility. The past remains, etched in the city's foundations, but it no longer defines the horizon. Dawn here is more than a beginning. It is an invitation to rebuild, to dream, and to live fully. The legacy is not frozen in time. It breathes and evolves with the rhythm of life. The final seconds carry a quiet but profound power, a cinematic gut punch that resonates deeply. The screen fades slowly to black as a calm, solemn voice intones. He left the company, but never left her. Silence follows. Thick, heavy, almost sacred, before a single brilliant firework erupts in the night sky. Colors burst and cascade in slow motion, illuminating the darkness with fleeting brilliance, a moment of beauty and release. The fireworks' glow fades into the void, a metaphor for the impermanence of power and the enduring strength of connection. Legacy, this final whisper suggests, is not simply about wealth or titles. It is about love, sacrifice, and the echoes left in the hearts of those who remain. The story closes not with finality but with an invitation to feel, remember, and hope. Viewers are left breathless, eyes misted, hearts full, carrying the story's quiet promise forward beyond the frame.